Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me back here again today to continue our discussion of Informatica's Power Exchange and how it can help you resolve some of your requirements. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andy Bristow. I'm a product specialist focusing on the change data capture solution of the Informatica platform. So before we start, let's quickly recap on what Power Exchange is. Power Exchange is an add-on to your existing Power Center environment that allows you to access data that's normally a pain to get at. It also allows you to receive data in real time, batch, or incremental changes. Because this happens all behind the scenes, you don't have to become a database expert to implement change data capture. I'd also quickly like to recap on some of the requirements that you told me the last time we were talking. And if I have these right here, you need to get an up-to-date view of your data and leverage your existing investment in your current ETL solution. And you need to consolidate heterogeneous data sources across your enterprise. As you're a growing company, you now have huge data volumes, and it's almost impossible to rematerialize at your desired intervals. And then on a technical side, you needed a solution that was going to be very productive, very easy to use, give you a quick return on your investment. Obviously, with those growing data volumes, you need a solution that's going to be very performant, so you can actually meet those SLAs. And finally, you need a solution that's not going to add any extra load to your source system. Is that correct? Great, thanks. Before we get into this, I'd just like to show you a quote from one of our other customers, GE, and they're using this to integrate data from, it says, thousands of data sources across their enterprise, including Oracle and Oracle Change Data Capture, to be able to synchronize their source and target systems. So, what does Power Exchange look like in your environment? You already have Power Center, so the data integration platform is very well known to you. But how does the rest of the Power Exchange solution fit in? On the left-hand side of the screen, we have Oracle as it's been set up and configured. It's obviously logging information to the archive logs and redo logs. The center of the screen is Power Exchange, which really consists of two components, the Power Exchange logger and the Power Exchange listener. The Power Exchange logger uses our log reader code to read the logs, both archive logs and redo logs, and write records of interest, in other words, information from the tables that you want to be capturing changes for, into the change stream. The change stream is synonymous with our Power Exchange logger files. So as the Power Exchange logger is running, as I say, it's writing changes to the logger files and also maintains its own checkpoint files. This gives you the ability to shut the logger down for maintenance, or if it does fail for any particular reason, it can be restarted, and you'll have the guarantee that it will actually use its checkpoint files to resume pulling changes from the archive logs from where it stopped. As requests coming from Power Center, they are interpreted by the listener. These requests are standard SQL statements, and the listener takes those SQL statements, interprets that, and based upon those statements, it will read data from the logger files as opposed to going to your actual source databases. Those records are passed back in rows and columns from the logger files back into Power Center, where it will read it as standard, as I say, rows and columns. There are two distinct areas on here, the capture and the consumer. The logger captures the changes and runs independently of the listener. This, as I say, gives you the ability to actually maintain these two components separately and completely independently of each other. We'll talk about the logger a little bit more as part of the demo. So right now, I'm going to go across to my VMware instance where I have my environment set up. And I'd like to start this by actually showing you what a CDC mapping looks like. This is a CDC mapping. And since you know Power Center well, you'll notice it doesn't look really any different from a standard ETL mapping. The only real differences are that instead of actually having relational sources to go to against your Oracle source systems, we actually have CDC sources, which are application connections. Apart from that, the rest is the same. Here we're actually capturing changes from 3 source tables on the left, and there's obviously some logic in here. We have some routers, lookups, filters, expressions, and we're actually propagating the changes in this case, through to 4 tables. Also, since it's a standard Power Center mapping, it could write to a variety of different targets. In fact, any of the ones that Power Center supports. This gives you a solution for one of your requirements, and that is to support heterogeneous systems. And it also lets you build on your existing Power Center platform another of your key requirements. So before I start running some changes through here, I'm going to start Toad and just preview one of my target tables. And this is my customer's current table. You'll notice the information in here. Specifically, there's columns like the last order date, which we will be updating. We'll also be deleting and inserting a few rows into here as well. But as I say, the timestamp will be the easiest one to pick out. This is the standard Power Center workflow monitor, and you can actually see that my CDC workflow has been running now for 12 minutes. So I'm just going to push some changes through here, and using a couple of scripts that I have here. This one will update all 3 tables, the products, the customers, and the orders table, and push some updates through to each of those. As we kind of talked about, the changes are being captured, being picked up by the workflow, and obviously the workflow is applying them to the targets. Since performance is one of your key requirements, there is a built-in monitor for CDC. The rows per second that you would normally look at for your batch ETL really doesn't mean too much with CDC, because the CDC workflow is running all the time. So the averages are very misleading. The performance and throughput statistics can be found on the Performance tab, and these are a lot more meaningful in that here we're actually measuring the latency from source to target as opposed to rows per second. There is all sorts of information in here, but the most important one is this item 4.7, which is the real-time display of the latency from source to target. This is obviously not a production server by any means. This is a VMware running on my laptop, so maybe the performance here isn't quite as good as you'd expect in a production environment, but it comes through and shows you that the latency for the last batch of changes was 13 seconds, which, as I say, is not great, but as I say, also say this is obviously not a production server. So, how does this happen? What's happening? How are we doing this? A little earlier, I talked about the Power Exchange logger, and it is consistently running, capturing changes from the Oracle redo logs and archive logs as soon as they happen. The logger is saving those changes in its own Power Exchange logger files. And once the logger has done that, Power Exchange doesn't need to access the Oracle logs again. So the Oracle logs can be maintained, archived, or removed according to your standard maintenance schedules. As the workflow runs, it obviously extracts the changes from the Power Exchange logger files and not Oracle. This provides 2 benefits. It provides the separation of capture and apply, and this allows you to capture the changes once and then use them multiple times. It also keeps the interaction between Power Exchange and Oracle at a minimum, thus keeping the overhead on Oracle as low as possible. Again, another one of your key requirements. So what do we do to get this going? The Power Exchange Navigator is the interface into into Power Exchange. And really, in the data capture section here, we have several subfolders. Registrations and extractions are the two key components here. Registrations are created once, and these define what the Power Exchange logger will capture, which tables, which columns, which fields, in what system, and so on. And as you can see here, I have some registrations already created, and these are the ones that are being used in the mapping we just saw. Let me take you through creating a registration so you can see how easy it is. I give it a name which should correspond to the name of the table, and we'll just call this C sales for now. I'm going to point it to a schema, and I'm going to point it to my Wembley schema. And if I know the table name exactly, I can type that in. Otherwise, it's just going to retrieve a list of tables from the catalog. And here, I can select which table I want to register now. And I'm going to pick my active customer sales and double-click on that. And when I do that, it retrieves a list of columns that make up that table. And here, I can select which columns I want to capture. You might not need to capture every column that changes. So as I say, you can select which ones you need. I'm just going to select them all for now and click on Next. Then we have a few extra settings on the next panel here. We can actually make this active or inactive. We can state whether this is going to be eligible for the logger to process or not. And by making the logger eligible for the logger will start capturing changes. And as I said, it's running 24/7, so it's going to start capturing changes as soon as we go through this registration process. Normally, I would click on Finish to put this in place and make this active. But since it already exists, I'm just going to click on Cancel for now. The cust-sal registration is this one. And obviously, you can recognize the three columns here as the three columns from the screen a couple of minutes ago. And that's a registration created, a very quick and easy process. If you have a lot of tables to register, going through the interface, doing these one at a time might not be the best way of doing it. So there is a batch utility that you can pass in parameter cards to, and it will register the tables in a batch type environment, alleviating the use of doing them one at a time through the interface. As these registrations were created, we also created an extraction map automatically behind the scenes as well. And let me just bring up the customer sal extraction map. Well, if you just look at this, it doesn't look any different to the metadata in the table. So why do we bother with an extraction map? The extraction map is more than just the columns. It's going to provide additional metadata or virtual columns that are available for the Power Center mapping to use. Of particular interest are the before and after images and our change indicators, and those are available through the interface here, and you can create them for each of the columns in the table. The change indicator returns an extra column per physical column, and it will contain a Y or an N to indicate whether a specific column changed. So I'm just going to select all of these, since there's only 3 of them, and add them to our metadata definition. And the same thing with the Before Images tab. Here, again, we'll add virtual columns into the definition. And for records that were updated, you'll be able to see the before value of the update and the after value of the update on the same row of data. So let me just select all of these and add those as well. And finally, I click on OK. You'll now notice that the metadata definition contains more columns, the 3 original ones plus these virtual columns beginning with DTL. And let me just save that. So that's our definition created. What we can do also through this graphical interface is actually just do a preview of the changes or test out what we've done so far. And that we do through a row test. So if I click on the row test button, we bring up our a different panel here. And you'll actually notice that, as I say, this was SQL driven, so there's my standard select statement. Instead of going to Oracle, our database type is CAPEX RT, which is capture extraction in real time. I need to put an application name in here. And what an application name is, it allows for Power Exchange to handle concurrent extracts. So when I'm reading through the change stream using this, I'm using my application test123, which creates a unique pointer into the change stream for my application. Another application that's running, even let's say through Power Center, it will have its own application name as well, and obviously that will be its unique pointer into the change stream. So before I actually go through and click on the Go button up here, let me just push some changes through. Again, I have a script already created that's going to push through a few updates to this table. In fact, it creates one row, updates 26, and then deletes one row at the end as well. Let me minimize that. As I say, the logger is running all the time in the background, so it's actually captured those changes. And when I click on Go here, it's going to retrieve that information from the Power Exchange logger files and provide it on the screen here for us to see. So what does this actually return? The first couple of columns are restart information. This is used by Power Exchange internally to maintain its position in the screen, in the change stream. This column here, CAPEX user, gives you the ID of the user who made those updates. So this could be used for auditing purposes as well. The timestamp is the timestamp from the source system of when the update happened. And again, this is retrieved from the Oracle logs. The next column is our CAPEX action indicator. And as you can see here is an I, a U, or a D. This is just the first 10 rows of the changes, so the D will be further down. And on the I, we can actually see the values that were inserted. We inserted customer 9105. The change indicator and the before image are set to null because this is an insert. On something like the update, we can see we updated row customer ID 1003. The status was not changed, but here we can actually see that the total sales has a Y here, which signifies that this was one of the columns that changed. And then you can see the values as well. The BI is the before image, so the value was changed from 498 to 507. This is additional metadata that's available for processing in Power Center. It's not that you have to use it, but it's there for you if you do need to use it. And that's it. The table's registered for capture. We've created the extract definition. We've previewed the data. Hopefully, as you saw, it's very quick and easy to do through a dedicated GUI. So if you're comparing this to some of the other CDC products out in the market, obviously you notice that you don't need a DBA to do anything behind the scenes. You don't need to set up anything additional in Oracle. There's no dynamic views or anything else that need to be set up. It purely is an end-user interface into creating these CDC definitions. The next step of the process is to pull the metadata definition into Power Center. And this would be done through the designer just like you would do normally with any other table. And we'd go, just traditionally you go to sources, import from database. But since this is Power Exchange, we have a special import from Power Exchange button. Again, we provide the credentials, tell it that it's Oracle, and tell it that it's a CDC data map. And then we just click on Connect. And it will retrieve, as you expect, a list of tables that have been registered for capture. And our sales is on this list now, so I can click on OK and import this. And because it's already in the repository, it's popping up saying it's already there. And obviously, I can then just replace it. At this point, the metadata definition or the extract map is in the repository, and I can save that in the repository, and then it's available for any other Power Center user to use. Then it can be used just like any other source definition in a mapping that you want to create. This lets you use your existing Power Center expertise, and you don't have to learn a new product. Any questions on this so far? Great. So, as I say, it's in the repository now. You can do whatever you like with it. So, kind of to wrap up on the demo piece here, hopefully you've seen that Power Center and Power Exchange are really tightly integrated. Power Exchange is easy to use with an intuitive GUI, and if you've looked at some of the competition, you will have seen a mishmash of other products that are strung together to provide similar functionality. And then once the tables have been registered, you don't need to use the navigator anymore. This is just a one-time process. Then your existing investment in Power Center will be augmented when you add Power Exchange, the Power Exchange CDC connectors to it. And so, just to kind of wrap up, hopefully we've shown you that we can meet your technical requirements that Big Co stated. And the ones that come to mind are obviously here, productivity. Through the use of this robust interface, you will have seen it's easy to use with a very short learning curve. And then performance was another one of your requirements. With all the volume here, you need a very high performant engine. And hopefully you've seen that using CDC to reduce the amount of data you move will help you meet your SLAs and your growing data volumes. Non-intrusive, obviously, since we're not going against Oracle, we're actually going against the Oracle logs. We don't put any additional overhead on the Oracle system. And finally, using this solution, we will be able to meet your business requirements. Most importantly, Informatica will give Big Co the ability to access consolidated, up-to-date information using your current existing skill set. So you've seen Power Exchange and Power Center work together in unison. It's a solution from a single vendor, a single methodology across all the databases. It's a very easy to use installation, very easy to use, period. The graphical interface is specific for setting up Power Exchange registrations and simplifies the development process. And obviously this is, because it's easy to use, it will actually give you a faster implementation and a quicker time to market, giving you a quicker return on your investment. You won't need to be a database expert to use Power Exchange. You'll be able to get to the data quickly, easily, securely, and efficiently. And with change data capture, the changes are available immediately for you to use in a real-time solution, or they can be gathered and then processed in batches. Being able to capture the changes once and then use them multiple times will relieve any additional overhead on the Oracle source. And you've done all of this very quickly and easily with no coding and no triggers. The ability to capture once and then consume many times will help with any different latencies you may have in your requirements. Writing to more than one target at a time, writing to multiple targets across a whole variety of different target databases is just inherently built into Informatica. And finally, for high performance with CDC, it's a very robust solution for real-time or changes in batch. We'll compress the changes and encrypt them if you need to, and by coding your mappings efficiently with multiple sources and multiple targets means that we have to be able to process those changes in using our group source facility for even faster execution. So finally, I'd just like to talk about one of our other customers, and that is Centene, and they are a leading healthcare business. Centene operates health plans in many states, and each of those had its own system for reporting processes. This made rolled-up, enterprise-wide business decision-making particularly difficult because the necessary reporting data had to be derived from so many mutually exclusive systems. Data needed for reports was extracted manually from those source systems to Microsoft Access and Excel, and the data integration was undertaken by hand. Worse still, a lot of the reporting was simply a point-in-time snapshot of the situation. By the time the report was used to execute business decisions, the source data could be weeks or months out of date. So how could Centene bridge the gap to real-time business decision-making and meet federal mandates surrounding healthcare compliance? Well, Centene decided to use Power Exchange, change data capture for Oracle to support up to 20 million insurance transactions per week across all states in a mission-critical enterprise-wide data warehouse. Package CDC is the heartbeat of Centene's data integration solution, capturing changes in the Oracle environment non-invasively as they occur, eliminating the need for specialized programming skills. Oracle CDC supports a variety of Centene's latency requirements and provides rapid impact assessment and deployment as the changes arise. The outcome is a real-time data access and a single unified view of every healthcare plan for increased business agility and reduced risk. The result is a consistent state-by-state view of healthcare insurance members and their history with Centene. All this data is used to rapidly and efficiently respond to frequently changing state requirements in the areas where Centene provides coverage. And with compliance reporting now moved into the data warehouse, the company can respond quickly to auditing any external auditing requirements. Costs have fallen considerably too. Maintenance and support costs have been reduced by approximately 50%. The new codeless environment eliminates the need for manual resources dedicated to supporting the previous environment, which used PL SQL and COBOL-based extracts. Any questions? Thank you.